chase. That's the shit they glorify. I don't even try hard. This gangsta shit immortalized. No records of a trace.
How they say DJ Rewind.
Niggas love the clout chase, that's the shit they glorify. I don't even try hard, this gangsta shit immortalized. No records of a trace, when your crime is organized. No man is over me, I'm highest in the morning time. Low key in the birds when I cross the state borderlines. Spin your block and horrified, fuck your bitch, you mortified. I'm standing where you draw the line, nigga, hold the line. My nutsack, I'm grabbing mine, both of mine, quit holding mine. You gon' get this work and some overtime, you know the vibe. Little nigga, you know it's me, I don't need them to notice me. When conflict get crucial, I can't help but do them bogusly. Smoke you like a stogie, beat you like you stole from me. Niggas out of body, put you back where you supposed to be. I shoot at you waking in the moment, niggas toast for you. My niggas do the most for me, that's what they supposed to. I want all the smoke, nigga, cut the shit you think bad enough and test. And you know how I'm coming, I ain't ducking nothing. You know when I pull up on your block, it's bustin'. You know how I'm coming, you can't with me. You know what's going to stop.
Bow, 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 bow. DJ.
I ain't really wanna be goofy when it's wartime. Niggas love the clout chase, that's the shit they glorify. I don't even try hard, this gangsta shit immortalized. No records of a trace, when your crime is organized. No man is over me, I'm highest in the morning time. Low key in the birds when I cross the state borderlines. Spin your block and horrified, fuck your bitch, you mortified. I'm standing where you draw the line, nigga, hold the line. My nutsack, I'm grabbing mine, both of mine, quit holding mine. You gon' get this work and some overtime, you know the vibe. Little nigga, you know it's me, I don't need them to notice me. When conflict get crucial, I can't help but do them bogusly. Smoke you like a stogie, beat you like you stole from me. Niggas out of body, put you back where you supposed to be. I shoot at you waking in the moment, niggas toast for you. My niggas do the most for me, that's what they supposed to. I want all the smoke, nigga, cut the shit you think bad enough and test. And you know how I'm coming, I ain't ducking nothing. You know when I pull up on your block, it's bustin'. You know how I'm coming, you can't with me. You know what's going, stop playing with me. I want all the smoke, nigga, cut the shit you think bad enough and test. And you know how I'm coming, I ain't ducking nothing. You know when I pull up on your block, it's bustin'. You know how I'm coming, you can't with me, gang. You know what's going, stop playing with me. Real gangsters move cryptically when that shit get critical. No peace amongst enemies, no pity for the pitiful. Real nigga down to the bones and the minerals. Stick to the G code, I never never told another soul. True to the literature, now salute the general. Kill you on your birthday, then slide on your funeral. It ain't about the clout chase, I'm a man of principle. Niggas out of body, now they body isn't critical. Cradle to the casket, the life we live is typical. God body, cause I will depart you from your physical. Niggas living fantasies, act like they was the only one. Don't talk to me about these streets, fuck you think you know me from. Just cause you related to them gangsters, that don't make you one. I ain't got no bloodline in these streets, but I could spill me some. I ain't got no mercy for this bitch, and she outside with us. They on demon time, we bring them hell and the fire with us.
All this smoke, liquor, cut the shit you think you bad enough to test. And you know I'm coming, I ain't ducking nothing. You know when I pull up on your block, it's bustin'. You know how I'm coming and who came with me. You know what's going, stop playing with me. I want all the smoke, nigga, cut the shit you think you bad enough to test. And you know how I'm coming, I ain't ducking nothing.
Oh yeah, let's do this. Back up in it. Just get it, get it, get it. Just get it. Just get it. Get it. Yes. Back up in it. What's good? We back. Shalom. Now y'all see the title. Basic instruction, becoming life eternal. Yeah, we back on it. We going through the wisdom books of the Bible and stuff like that, right? Because started doing this series because for new Bible readers, right? Because sometimes people be wondering what books to read and all that stuff, and so sometimes you can't just always just start from the beginning and all that. I mean, you could, when I first started reading, I started with some of the these very same books, these books of wisdom and stuff like that, right? And but of course you can start wherever you want to start, but just understanding like the principles of life and how we are to conduct ourselves and around one another, get a very good understanding reading Proverbs and Ecclesiasticus and Ecclesiastes and other books like that, right? So of course, giving all praises to the Most High, we do so in His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, who the world might know as Jesus Christ, right? So, without further ado, we're gonna get right into it. Right to it. Let's start with Proverbs 9. Right. So we had last time, we had left off in Proverbs 8. So we're gonna pick it up where we left off at, going into chapter 9. Right. So starting at the top, it says, "Wisdom had built her house; she have hewed out her 7 pillars." Because wisdom, you have to have a solid foundation when you standing on something, right? You just can't be like just going with anything. You got to have a solid foundation, And it says, wisdom built her house. She have hew out 7 pillars. She have killed her breast. Let me read it right. It says she had killed her beasts. She had mangled her wine. She had also furnished her table. She had sent forth the maidens. She had cried upon the highest places of the city. Meaning, the Most High God, was calling for his people to, to come, back to the statutes and commandments, because the Bible tells you that the fear of the Most High is the beginning of knowledge and wisdom. And that wisdom comes from keeping the commandments. And it says she sent forth her maidens. She cried upon the highest places of the city. Right? And, of course, wisdom is being personified as a woman. Right? But, it's the Most High wisdom. Because just like, a man might often, name his car a female's name or something, right? Because sometimes when a man is writing about something of importance, he might put it in a feminine, right? Versus the masculine, right? So it says, she has sent forth her maidens, meaning her prophets, and her teachers, come out to try to teach the people and try to, bring the wisdom and the knowledge to the people. She cried upon the high places in the city. Throughout all these cities of America and elsewhere, the Most High had sent his people out to teach, right? And wisdom, like I said, it tells you wisdom cry out in the streets. And oftentimes people be looking for things in the wrong places, right? And it says, who is simple, let him turn hither, for him wanted understanding said unto him. So, because hold on, let's get this real quick, because it's going to explain it really quick. Let's go to Psalms real quick. Psalms 19:7, and it says, the law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise, that's the point, making wise the simple. So keeping the law, statutes, and commandments is what make you perfect, and it converts the soul. And that conversion and that wisdom that you attain it says making wise the simple, right? Just like how we can read over here what it say. It says, she sent forth her maidens. She cried upon the highest place of the high places of the city. Who is simple, let him turn in hither. As for him that wanted understanding, she said to him. Because, again, the law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul. The testimony of the Lord is short, making wise the simple. So, like I said, keeping these commandments, like I said, it increases your wisdom and knowledge, right? In doing so, the Most High God will increase you in your wisdom and knowledge, as you, continue along in your walk, right? Then it says, come eat my bread and drink wine which I have mingled. Forsake this foolish, and live and go in the way of understanding. And that's what we got to do. We got to, mature, grow up. A lot of us have a hard time growing up. We have something called arrested development. A lot of times we stuck in a certain mindset and we don't, mature like how we should, mentally and spiritually. That's why it says, forsake the foolish and live and go away and go the way of understanding. Meaning, don't be always, how we used to say back in the day, stuck on stupid. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people are stuck on stupid and don't want to know better, don't know better, and don't want to know better. Right? It says, forsake foolishness. So, a lot of us is caught up in these immature ways of life, and or the ways of the world that's hindering our growth spiritually and mentally. And it says, forsake the foolish and live, and go the way of understanding, right? Follow that way of truth and wisdom and understanding, right? Be a person of understanding, right? Don't be a person that somebody say, that's a fool over there. Look at this dummy over there, right? You know, how we say, man, look at this goofy right here, right? So, don't be that. And it says, he that reproved the scorner getteth to himself shame. And that's the problem a lot of times, because our people have this attitude, like that I like to say, we under that Kanye West spell, can't tell me nothing. Nah, 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 can't tell me nothing, right? You know what I'm saying? We got that, can't no nigga tell me nothing. Who does nigga think they talking to? Who does nigga think they is? Right? And we have this sense of pride where we think we got to figure out. Nobody can teach us anything. Right? And it says, he that reprove a scorner getteth to himself shame. So you try to talk to a nonsensible person, someone that's just unruly, don't have no type of common sense, and you're trying to talk to him, you're trying to reason with him, brother to brother, sister to sister, trying to reason with him, and they just can't get right. They still still can't get past go, right? And what happens? It says reprove not a scorner. Hold on, it says, he that reproves a scorner getteth himself shame. So you end up just looking foolish trying to talk to, this dummy, right? Because what they say, don't argue much with a fool, right? It says it in the same book, about arguing with a fool. You don't want to spend too much time talking to a fool. You want to get into a habit, like I like to say, don't argue with fools, correct them, right? You know what I'm saying? You don't have to argue with a fool. Correct them, boom, leave it at that, and leave it alone, right? Because, like that wise man said, people looking from a distance can't tell who is who if you arguing with a fool, right? So it says, he that and he that rebuked the wicked man get himself a blot. So you coming up to somebody that is doing wrong. Like we see these stories. We all grew up in the hood, right? Most of us, some of us, a lot of us, right? Or we seen some things, right? You witnessed it, probably been in it, whatever. Somebody outside selling drugs, doing gang activity, whatever the case may be, right? And some elderly person or somebody try to say, hey, young people, young fellas, stop all that stuff. And then what happened? They cursed the old man out, probably beat him up, you know what I'm saying? Harass him and all that, right? Because it says, and he that rebuked the wicked get himself a blot. Because sometimes, some people are just so unruly, you can't talk to them. You can't tell them right for wrong, because they're not trying to hear right for wrong, right? And then sometimes that can get you into a world of trouble. You try to correct somebody, and now they want to try to fight you, want to cause some type of harm to you, right? So, and it's all about, wisdom. That's why the Bible says be seasoned on how you address every man, right? So you can't always, some people you can talk to, some people you can't. And the Bible also say, let the wicked stay wicked, Let the unjust stay unjust, let the wicked be unwicked, right? Because it also say, I'm paraphrasing of course, there's some sins that are sins unto death. And we shouldn't pray for those. Meaning, if somebody is doing a sin that is worthy of death, the Bible says don't pray for them. Because there's certain sins that people do, and they just going to habitually do, that is going to be their downfall, right? And it's, and you can hope for the best, but sometimes that's spiritually how it plays out. God is probably want them to go through whatever they're going through, or take them down that path, so He can have a reason to jack them up, right? So it says, he that reproved the scorner give to himself shame, and he that rebuked the wicked man get himself a black. Meaning some people you just can't talk to, right? You just can't reason with, because they just ain't got no sense, right? You just got to leave them alone, right? And we under this illusion, because of these false religions of Christianity, that we have to get along with everybody. Christ didn't say that, right? Christ said, let's see what He said real quick. Let's see if we can find it real quick. Now let's see if I can find it. If I can't find it, I ain't gonna waste too much time on it. I think it's where is it? Right here, Matthew 18 and 15. So this is what Christ said on the matter, right? Because again, this false religion that we've been following all our lives had convinced us that we have to get along with everybody, right? You feel somebody forgive you, and then they have to be around you, and you have to be around them, and you got to go back to how it was before, right? That's the idea, because you be like, well, the person said they forgave me, why they acting like that with me, right? Or a person be like, well, and because people think because you forgive somebody, that means everything cool. You can forgive somebody and still don't have nothing to do with them, right? And so it says this. Moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee, so meaning, you get into it with, somebody around the way, and go tell him his fault. So now somebody end up doing something that you may find disrespectful, you didn't like too much. So then you go holler at him, like, hey, you did blah blah blah, I didn't like that too much, right? Instead of going to the internet or going to your cousin, your brother, your friend, your mama, your sister, your auntie, your woman, your brother, your man, your husband, wife, you go to everybody, right? Then by the time you do that, we all know the game of telephone. But it's just like telephone in a different way, right? Gossiping. You say something, then you tell those people, then by the time they probably spread the word to somebody else, they probably put a little spice on it, right? Then by the time you get back to the other person who you went to it with, it's a whole world of stuff, right? And it says, moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee, go and tell him his fault between thee and him alone. So when somebody, commit a infraction towards you, right? You feel a little disrespected, a little slight, whatever type of way it may play out. You talk to that person, and of course, using wisdom, because sometimes people be too hype and too upset when they go and speak with somebody, then it always, then it end up going left, right? So you always want to have an idea of how you want the conversation to go, right? And stick to that idea, right? And stick to the plan, because, if you don't want to, if you're trying to fix the problem, and, so you want to make sure that's the goal of the conversation. And, because, like I said, sometimes stuff go awry because misunderstandings, stuff get mistranslated, and misunderstood, so it'd be crazy. So it says, If thy brother shall trespass against thee, go and tell him his fault between thee and him alone. If he shall hear thee, so you talking to this person, they listening to you. You be like, hey, you was kind of bogus on how you did that, and they be like, you know what, you probably right. I probably shouldn't have did it like that. So y'all talking about it, y'all going through it, y'all trying to fix the wrongs, right? Then it says, if he hear thee, thou gain thy brother. Right? So then y'all end up patching stuff up. Now y'all can be cool about it. Then y'all can your relationship probably even got strengthened after that. Because y'all was able to be honest and to talk to each other and express how y'all feel and fix the matter, right? So y'all might even become even cooler after that. Or it could be a person that maybe you wasn't friendly with, but something happened where you might feel, slighted or disrespected. Then you talk to them about it. And now y'all are friends. Now you the best of friends. I mean, because some of us get into fist fights with people and end up being friends with that person for the rest of our life, right? So it happens. It says, but if he will not hear thee. So now this is the point, right? How we talking about, this, we're not forced to be around each other, right? If it's not, peaceable. And it says, but if he will not hear thee, then take thee with one or two or more, that in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, every word will be established. So then you bring a witness, you bring somebody else that can probably back up how you feel and probably can be like, yeah, you was kind of wrong for that. You did get kind of drunk and go a little crazy that night, what I'm saying? Somebody that could be an extra witness, right? These are examples. And it says, and if he shall neglect to hear them. So now if this person, you came to him, you talked to him, man to man, woman to woman, try to fix the problem, then they didn't being kind of, short and kind of, honorary, right? So then you go get some witnesses and be like, hey, look, these people, they also feel the same way, and they can kind of, back up what I'm saying, you kind of, you're wrong or whatever, right? And then they still don't want to hear that counsel, right? And then what it say? And if he neglect to hear them, tell it to the church. So then you can broadcast it to the people, because the church is the people. It's not that filthy, nasty, money laundering building that they got for the poor, that they go and money launder money from the poor and give it to the rich. Not that building, right? The church is the people, the Israelites. So it says, but if he neglect to hear the church, let him be thee a heathen, a man, and a Republican. So then after, you bring it out to the public, and he's still, acting like whatever. So then you can cut that person off, and you don't have to deal with them, and you can still forgive them, but just be like, we ain't got to deal with each other ever in life, it's cool. No hard feelings, right? Then it says, let him be unto you as a heathen. So then Christ said, if after you do all of these steps, trying to establish peace with this person that you felt, disrespect with, you do all these things to try to, get peace with this person, and they still giving you their butt to kiss, then it says, let him be unto thee as a heathen, right? What is a heathen? A non-Israelite. So just kind of break this down too. Just walk this part a little slow, because we got to talk about my Jesus, right? Because everybody act like, well, Jesus is all love. He loves everybody. So then why is Jesus telling you, if you cannot make friends with your fellow Israelite, then treat them like a outsider that's not an Israelite. Then treat them like one of those. Could Jesus be a nationalist? Oh my God. Could he be the R word? The R word? A racist. Could he? Right? Something to think about. Another lesson for another day. right? Because little that people do know, Jesus is a nationalist, right? He is for his people. Look at the makeup of his disciples. He had zealots in his disciples. And if you know what a zealot is, then you should know that Christ was a nationalist, right? But anyway, besides the point. So, back over here. Back over to Proverbs. Oh, what was that? Boom, boom, boom. So it says, alright, verse 8. It says, reprove not a scorner lest he hate thee. Rebuke a wise man and he will love thee. So again, so you have people that just don't want to be corrected. You know, you try to tell somebody, you know, and you try to give them the right way, the correct way, and they hate you for it. You're trying to show them the right, correct way to be, like show them the better way, and they hate you for it, and they despise you for it, and they go deeper and deeper into that thing you're trying to pull them out of. And they do it out of spite. Because it says, reprove not a scorner lest he hate thee. Because people that are just stuck in their ways, the stubborn, bullheaded people, if you try to correct them, you're just going to make them just buck up and, you know, and go crazy, you know, just be more stubborn into what they're into. But it says this, rebuke a wise man and he will love thee. So if you correct somebody of wisdom, of knowledge, somebody that wants that correction, somebody that wants to better themselves, somebody that do what Michael Jackson say, look at the man in the mirror and make that change, right? You look in a, you know, and you look at yourself and you reflect and say, who am I? What am I doing, right? That type of person you can correct and he would take it and love it because he would want the correction because he wants to better himself, right? That's what goes on here. So it says, reprove not a scorner lest he hate thee. Rebuke a wise man and he will love thee. Give instructions to a wise man and he will yet be wiser. And that's what happens. Because again, if you rebuke a scorner, they will hate you and they will go deeper into their stubbornness, their hard-headedness, and it wouldn't be nothing you can tell them. It would be like talking to a wall, right? You might as well go into a mental institution and just be in those little padded rooms, right? Because that would be essentially doing that, talking to people like that, right? You get crazy talking to them. But it says, give instruction to a wise man, he will yet be wiser. So when you give advice or instructions to a wise man, you give him, you know, some, you know, a good word. He's going to listen to that good word, and it's going to make him better because he's going to add it to his life. He's going to do those things that he just heard that sound good to his ears, and he's going to apply it to his life, right? It says, a wicked person, in the same book, it says a wicked person hear a good word and they scorn at it, you know, and they laugh at it. But a wise person hear a good word and they add on to it. So a lot of times, you know, some people may, you know, you might hear somebody say something that's, you know, dope or something, right? It'd be like a dope bar, you know, like they just drop some knowledge, some wisdom. Would be like, dang, that's really dope. I never thought about it like that. So then you internalize it. You know, you understand it. So then you may be talking one day. So then because you internalize that knowledge you learned, you're now able to vocalize it in your way, in your tone, in your mannerism, in how you perceive it. And you can put your spin to it. You can add to it, right? And, you know, and increase it, right? Then somebody else can take it, but like, yeah, that is a wise saying. Let me, you know, and how to say, each one teach one, right? And that's how you grow the society. You grow the consciousness of the people, right? What did it say? Boom. It says, "Give instruction to a wise man, and he will be yet wiser." But that's what happens. You teach somebody that's willing to learn and want to learn and better themselves, they will take that information and apply it to their life, because it's a difference between, knowledge and wisdom, right? Knowledge is to know. Okay, we know stuff. Okay, cool. Everybody knows stuff. But wisdom is the applying of that knowledge, right? So if you're not applying what you know, then what the hell you know? You don't know you know what I mean? Right? So it's like, it says, teach a just man and he will increase in learning. And that's what happens. And it says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Because you got to have that healthy fear of the Most High God, knowing that He controls everything. And when we say everything, we mean everything, right? Whatever everything is, everything, right? He in control, right? And it says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the holy is understanding, right? And that's the knowledge of the holy is understanding, because as you get this wisdom and you get understanding of this book of the scriptures, right? You get your understanding increases, right? And it says, for by me thy days shall be multiplied, and the years of thy life shall be increased. If thou be wise, thou shalt be wise for thyself. But if thou scornest, thou alone shalt bear it. So, let's read it again. It says, for by me days shall be multiplied, and the years of thy life shall be increased. Because through wisdom and your knowledge, you can increase your lifespan, right? Because you're not out here doing dumb stuff, right? You're not taking, a hanger and sticking it in a socket, trying to see what happens, right? You're not playing hopscotch on a third rail, right? You're not doing stuff like that, right? Because it says, for by me thy days shall be multiplied. Because when you apply the knowledge that you have, because the applying of knowledge becomes wisdom. When you apply that, you're able to prolong your life because you're wise. You know how to live. You know how to navigate through this wicked world that we live in. How Christ tells us to be wise as a serpent but harmless as a dove, right? You know how to navigate through this world that these people concocted to destroy and to unalive everything, right? You'll be able to navigate. It says, but if thou be wise for thyself. But if thou scornest, thou alone shalt bear it. So, because a lot of times people, their wisdom that they have, says, thou be wise for thyself. And so meaning, you're not, trying to be performative. You're not trying to be a know-it-all and all that stuff, right? And, because sometimes people that try to be a know-it-all and stuff, they end up falling flat, right? They try to act like they know something, but then be found to not know anything. And it says, what does it say? Boom. It says, but if thou scornest, thou alone shalt bear it. So, so sometimes, when you trying to present yourself as this smarty pants, this person that knows something, and then when you fall flat on your face, and then people, expose you, and you get scorned, you have to bear that embarrassment alone, right? Because, like I said, you put your neck out there, you put your chin out there, and you got it knocked out, right? Because, not thinking before you speak, and just presuming yourself to be wise, and just speaking presumptuously like you know something. Then when you get called out about it, the people will see it and then you have to bear that scorning and that scourging, right, from the people. So right here, 13. And this is right here, we got to understand this too, right? Because a lot of our people are dealing with this, right? And this plagues our community heavy. But, of course, not all, some, Right here, verse 13. A foolish woman is clamorous, right? Meaning a foolish woman, a stupid, ignorant woman is clamorous, meaning she talks too much, right? She's always running her mouth about something, right? Always, we all know women that's always blah, 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 right? And it says, a foolish woman. So this is talking about, because, some of our women folk might be listening to this, and they be like, oh, he talking about calling women foolish. We're talking about a certain type of woman. No, talking about a foolish woman, right? So that's what it's speaking of, a foolish woman. And some of our women are foolish. We have a lot of foolish women out here, right? And, that's just the truth of the matter. And we got to speak on it, right? And, of course, we got a lot of wonderful, great women out here. And we ain't talking about those, right? Because the Bible says a foolish woman is clamorous, meaning a foolish, ignorant woman talks too much. And she is simple, meaning she's dumb. She just be running her mouth, don't know nothing. Just be talking just to talk, just to make you irritated, right? That's her whole MO. I'm going to talk and get this person irritated. And it says, a foolish woman is clamorous. She is simple, meaning she's dumb as hell. She knows nothing, right? Because, she just be talking. It's hard to learn anything if you're always talking, right? It's very hard to perceive and receive knowledge if you're always talking. So, it says, a foolish woman is clamorous. She is simple and knoweth nothing. And we got to be careful for these things, because sometimes we see these outrageous women, where we call it, what we say, red flags. We see these red flags, right? Instead of saying, that's a red flag, we say to ourselves, I can fix that. Maybe I can get in there and, look under the hood and tweak something, and maybe I can fix that, right? But nah, you gotta run as fast as you can. You gotta wait, because it says, a foolish woman is clamorous. She is simple and knoweth nothing. For she sit at the door of her house, of the seat of the high places of the city. Because, always out in the streets, hanging out with the guys, right? Being out in the streets, the one that be in the little smoke section, got her a little beer or two, sitting around, hanging, chilling, right? And it says, for she sitteth in the door of her house, on the seat of the high places. Because the high places is like the little popular areas where everybody be at and going and stuff, of the city, to call to passengers who go right on their way. So then, trying to catch her a little, simp, that might be foolish enough to try to buy her a drink or buy her something to smoke, to try to, see if he can get something, for that night, right? It says, she sit at the door of the house, of the seat of the high places of the city, to call passengers who go right on their ways, right? And that's what happens, right? Hold on, before we hold on. Hold on. Let's go back to this. I don't miss the precept. Let's read this one more time. Let's go back to. Hold up. Let's go to Ecclesiastes 5:2 real quick, right? Hold on. So it says, a foolish woman, let's go back to 13, right? It says, a foolish woman is clamorous, she is simple, she knoweth nothing, right? So Ecclesiastes 5:2 says this. hold on. Because, like I said, just, people that talk too much and just always running their mouth and stuff, you got to be careful. Because it says this, Ecclesiastes 5:2. Be not rash with thy mouth. So don't be rash with your mouth. Don't be quick to speak. Don't be always, because some people listen to respond. They don't listen to understand. And so don't be that type of person, where you just listen to respond and not listen to understand. It says, be not rash with thy mouth, and let not thy heart be hasty to utter anything before God. So don't be always quick to speak, because that's why they say think before you speak. And the reason why you should think before you speak, because people that talk too much always running their mouth. What happens? You end up telling an involuntary lie, right? Some people are just compulsive liars and they just lie purposely, but some people will lie about the simplest thing, like, hey, what you have for, I know a person, I ain't gonna say their name. Matter of fact, I know a couple of people. Ask them a simple question, hey, what you eat for breakfast? Give you a straight extravagant lie instead of just telling you what they ate. So you have people in this regular conversation will lie about the simplest thing, like, like, shit, I got on I got on a black shirt. Somebody, hey, what color shirt you got on? White. And it's clearly black. Because they just quick. What does it say? Be not rash of thy mouth. Let not thy heart be hasty to utter anything before God. So people just oftentimes speak before they think. They just want to say whatever they think is the right thing to say at that moment. And if you that type of person that just want to say the right words at that moment, I mean, you kind of messing up. You kind of that person we talking about. So it says, for God in heaven endow upon earth, therefore let thy words be few. Right? So it said, let thy words be few. Because sometimes people just want to blah, 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 blah. Right? So that's why it says, back over here, a foolish woman is clamorous. Meaning, a foolish woman would talk too much. Would tell all her business and say everything. Right? And you shouldn't be like that. And it says, back over here, verse 3, Ecclesiastes 5:3. For a dream cometh through the multitude of business, and a full voice is known by the multitudes of words. So you can tell a foolish woman on when she starts to talk and how long she talks and what she say when she's speaking. Right? And so it says, when thou vows a vow unto God, defer not to, okay, boom, boom, boom. So, basically, you know what I'm saying, like, people, don't be that person that just clamors. And we gotta have discipline, right, to learn how to communicate with each other, right? And so we don't speak over each other. But back over here. So it says, for she sitteth in the door of the house of the seat of the in the high places of the city, to call the passengers who go right in their ways. Right, so let's get Ecclesiastes real quick. Right. Ecclesiastes 26 and 11. And it says, watch over an prudent eye, and marvel not if she trespass against thee. So, talking about these hoes out here, right? It says, because back over here it says, for she sit in the door of her house on the seat of high places of the city, to call the passenger. So you got that these women, when they get left alone because their man ain't around, you know, and they might need another man to be around because their man is not around, right? They need a little company. So they start to be a little friendly, a little extra friendly. So that's why it says this over here. Watch over an prudent eye, and marvel not if she trespass against thee. So you can watch over your woman. You can be that, hey girl, who you talking to? Who you looking at? Don't be looking at that nigga. Who's that? Who you texting? Who on your phone? Right? Who's the nigga that saw you talking to? I don't know. Right? What's that song, right? You can be that guy. You can be the hawk on the shoulder, just looking, watching. What you doing? Where you going? Where you been? Right? But it says, and marvel not if she trespass against thee. So she gonna do what she wanna do. Because how they say, when there's a will, there's a way. So if she wanna go and get her another banana split, a little banana on the side, she gonna do that, right? And it says, she will open her mouth as a thirsty traveler. Oh, this Bible is graphic. It's very graphic, very rated R, right? This is very MA. Although it's written in a very poetic way. But you gotta understand what the brother is trying to tell us. Right? What is our dear brother Sirach is telling us? Let's go back to it. And I lost it. It's crazy. Watch over an imprudent eye, and marvel not if she trespass against thee. So no matter how hard you may try to watch her and put provisions, you know, if she like that, she like that. Right? Then it says, she will open her mouth as a thirsty traveler. Meaning, her mouth, in this case, is her actual mouth and her vagina mouth to any guy that, you know, come by, right? So it says, she opened her mouth as a thirsty traveler when he had found a fountain to drink. So she's like willing to put her mouth on anything that goes by. You know how people say, man, she out here sucking and hunching on everything, right? So the Bible speaks saying the same thing right here. Our dear brother Sirach is talking the same thing about how some of these women folks is, and how we got to be careful, and how to look out for stuff like that, right? It says, she will open her mouth as a thirsty traveler. Will she have found a fountain and drink of every water near? So she gonna, you know, we all know that one girl that the whole town done know about. Like, oh man, you know, if you're a guy, you know, this is for the guys right here. So if you're a woman, so for the women folk, you know what I'm saying, it might be, you probably don't know this. But, you know, us guys, we laugh when we find out that woman done moved and went to another town or state. Be like, well, she went to go start over, about to go do that whole town too next. Do that whole state next, right? We say these things, right? You know? But it says this. She will open her mouth as a thirsty traveler when she has found a fountain to drink of every water near her. So after she done screwed everybody in this town, now she gonna go to the next spot to go and see who she can, you know, hit up. Because she done burnt up everything up here. Everybody know her name. She done got a name. Done got, you know, so she gotta go, right? She done burnt it up. It got hot. So it says, by every hedge will she sit down. So she, you know, she'll find a place to post up. She'll find a spot where, you know, they say, where the niggas at? You know what I'm saying? They gonna find where the niggas at. They gonna put on their little clothes that they put on to try to attract this type of man that they looking for, right? It says, by every hedge will she sit down and open her quiver. So what is her quiver? What is her quiver? Huh? What is the quiver? What is the thing we remember when these little kids used to do this? Put their little hands together, you do that, right? What's the quiver? The quiver is her vagina, right? So she's willing to give herself to, to any suspecting man that may come by, right? That, you know, may satisfy, that she may think can satisfy her needs at the time, right? Because it says she will open her mouth as a thirsty traveler when he have found a fountain and drink of every water near her. In every hedge will she sit down and open her quiver against every arrow. The arrow is the penises that she is receiving, right? When you're not looking, right? So you gotta be careful, right? And you gotta watch out for certain behaviors of women when you see certain red flags that we, like to say, right? And because the Bible tells you how to deal with all types of situations, right? It's just that we don't understand how this Bible is actually a living book, right? We say, oh, this stuff was written thousands, hundreds of years ago. That don't mean nothing today. We just read some stuff that is very prevalent today, that we look and see is very heavy today, right? Whores. Whores are in the community. Whores are very prevalent, right? We cannot say it's not, right? We know that. So, moving on. Proverbs 9 and 15. To call every passenger who go right on their way. So we just read, how some of these women are so promiscuous and how they just, present themselves and just be looking for the next victim sometimes. It was that woman that was on the internet about a month or two ago that was proudly, saying how she goes out to these clubs and different events looking for what she called victims, right? So, yes, there are women predators out there as well as men predators, right? That look for unsuspecting victims to take advantage of, right? So, it says, who is simple, let him turn hither. As for him that wanteth understanding, she said to him. So she's looking for the simple. She's looking for, the one that don't, can't, thinks, that don't know how to think with his, how they say, the thinking with his little head and not thinking with his big head. She's looking for that guy that, is just dumb. He just think with his dick, right? Can we say dick? I don't know if we can say dick. I said it. Right? Pause. Right? So, she's looking for that type of person. Right? So, because it says, who is simple, let him turn hither. As for him that wanted understanding, she said to him. Right? So, like I said, so she's looking for that guy that's, it's easy to get swindled up and swooped up into a way. Like how we like to say, these hoes out here winning now. Good women is losing to hoes right now, right? All because we don't understand how to recognize, when we see one, right? Because we live in a society that promote whoredom, and we kind of, and by us, having our sinful nature and not coming back to the law, statutes, and commandments, we gravitate to these things. Because this society is set up to cater to our lust, versus our spirituality, right? And it says, who is simple, let him turn hither. As for him that wanted understanding, she said to him, stolen water, this is great. Stolen water is sweet. So you have, people that like what's that R. Kelly song? Down low, just keep it on the down low. So you have people that, get off, on living, these little double lives and having little secret love affairs that nobody know. Everybody in the same room together, but nobody know that y'all, doing little, little secret, communications amongst yourselves. People get off on that, right? And it's crazy. Because it says stolen waters are sweet. You know what I'm saying? Meaning, look, we got water, but we're going to steal that water. That water is going to be great. better than our water, because we're going to have more water, right? So it says stolen water is great, you know. So she's talking about, look, I know I got a man, you know, and he talking like, what's that other song, that song? A girl like, I got a man, what they gotta do with me? I got a man, what they gotta do with me? Remember that song when we was kids? So this is what we're reading here, right? People not having regard for, their loved ones and falling into their lust, right? Because it says, stolen water is sweet, bread eaten in secret is pleasant. So, meaning, look, like I said, you'll be surprised how many people get turned on, doing underhanded secret stuff, like we all in the same room, then they might dip off and go, kiss in the bathroom or go make out in the bathroom, come back, and nobody knows that anything. Like, oh yeah, hey, I gotta go get something from the car. Oh, let me go help you. I'll help you grab it from the car, right? Ain't nobody like, all right, that's cool, right? People get off on doing stuff like that, right? Women get off knowing that her husband just left for work and another guy is about 5 minutes out for coming in, and it's the excitement on, are they gonna bump into each other or not? They get off on that, right? Knowing that her husband will be home at 5:30 and the guy is still there, right? Is he gonna be able to leave on time before he pull up in the driveway? They like these things. I'm not saying that, the ones that do, right? There's people that's out there that like it because it says stolen water is sweet and bread is eaten in secret is pleasant. So people that get caught up in these love triangles and stuff, that's spiritually what they feel and be saying, right? Says, but he knoweth not that the dead are there, because adultery, the penalty for adultery is capital punishment according to the law, right? You cannot sleep with another man's woman and think that's cool. You cannot sleep with another woman's man and think that's cool, right? The Most High God have capital punishment laws on certain offenses, right? And people don't understand when the Bible says Christ has the keys to life and death, right? That means it's no longer, that means he's going to straight handle it all himself, right? Because whenever we used to sin, the Levitical priesthood will carry out the judgment. But now Christ got the keys to life and death. So he can judge you. So when you see, just make this understandable. Because we know this stuff happens. When you see somebody come home from work and they catch their wife and another person in the house, and then they snap and go unalive everything, even a dog. It's messed up. We know it's messed up. But adultery is carry a capital punishment. You gotta understand. It don't matter how it plays out on our side of the thing, in our 3D world. On the spiritual side, capital punishment, right? Somebody could be on their way to go cheat or go commit adultery, how they say, right? I prefer that word, adultery. And then they might stop into a gas station and get some stuff. Then some crazy lunatic run into a gas station and rob the joint, and then see him in there and unalive him in a gas station, and we don't know that this person's about to go to his other woman house, right? And because her man left for work, and now he about to come over there. But the Lord said, you know what? I'm tired of looking at this. I got to put this to an end, right? That's how it goes down. Because stolen water is sweet, and bread eaten in secret is pleasant. That's what people think. But he know not that the dead are there, because adultery carries a death penalty. All right? In case you don't know, we might not be living in the days where we got Levitical priests, But I'm trying to tell you, if you got eyes to see and ears to hear, those examples I just gave you is God giving out judgment. We know stories like that. We know, we heard about Arena Bobbitt. We know what Arena Bobbitt did. If you young enough and old enough to remember, right? We know. Like I said, we know. Right? We know stories. We can look at our own life and know stories. I ain't got to sit up here and give example after example. We can look at our own life, right? Chapter 10, right? Chapter 10, yes. I want to read some of this in the GNT. Chapter 10. Proverbs chapter 10. So let's do it like this, right? So I'm gonna read some of this in the GNT. So it says this: a wise child brings joy to a father. A foolish child brings grief to a mother. So again, because parents take pride and joy in their kids, right? And if their kids is doing what they're supposed to do, you're gonna call and tell everybody oh, my kid is doing this, my kid is doing that. They're going to school to do this. They're doing this, that, and this, and they're doing this and that and this and right. You gonna tell everybody because you're happy, right? But it says, a child brings joy to a father. A foolish child brings grief to a mother. Right? Because, you're going to sadden your mama. Your mama going to get on the phone. She's going to call her friends and family and talk about how you making her life a living hell. Right? Because, especially, going back to the fathers, too. Because fathers love their kids. Right? Even if they will, don't take care of their kids. If that makes sense. Right? Even if what they would call a deadbeat dad, they love their kids. And how we know they love their kids? Because this very first line right here, it says, a wise child brings joy to a father. And it's another verse too I was thinking of as well. But because I know in my experience, because I've been a guy, right, all my life. So, and I noticed like people that that had kids and they might not be with their child's mother and they whatever else stuff may be, and they might be in the category of a deadbeat, and I listen to them, and they still manage to brag about their kids and speak about them in a joyous way, even though they're not doing anything, right? Because it's just a natural thing for a parent, and for a father, right? That's why it says, a wise child brings joy to a father, a foolish child brings grief to the mother, right? So, it's all about, and that's how it goes down, because, parents, they love their kids, right? Because they like to brag, they want to be able to brag on their kids. And it says, tainted wealth has no lasting value, but right living can save your life, right? So it says, let's read it over here too. It says, treasure of the wickedness profit nothing, but righteousness deliver from death. Right? So, again, a lot of times people want to depend on their money. They want to depend on how much money they got, their bank account, instead of depending on the Most High God and keeping the laws and doing what He tells you to do. Right? Because, He's going to, the Most High God will bless those that do that does what He tells them to do. And it says, the Lord will not suffer the soul of the righteous to famish, but He casts away the substance of the wicked. So, So again, the Lord doesn't allow the righteous to suffer and to go hungry. He's going to make sure that all their needs will be met. Because sometimes we go through stuff that we wonder how we end up making it out, or how stuff happen. Like, dang, I don't know how that happened, right? Because God don't allow His people to suffer, right? It might be hard, but He's going to always have a way, to make sure that we straight in the whole thing, right? So read it over here. It says, the Lord will not let the godly go hungry, but He refuses to satisfy the cravings of the wicked. Lazy people are soon poor. Hard workers get rich. Right? So you gotta, put the work in. Right? A lot of times people want things to happen right away. They want, microwave success. Right? But you gotta put the work in. Right? So that's why it says, read it in KJV, it says, he become poor that dealeth with slack hand, but the hand of the diligent make rich. Then it says, the wise harvest in the summer, but one who sleeps during harvest is a disgrace. Because during the summertime is the time where you can plant your crops and stuff, and you get ready. Because what's after summer? Winter. So you want to make sure you gather everything you need, so when times get hard, you'll be ready and have what you need, right? And that's how we gotta deal with stuff. We gotta be able to, instead of just looking for it right now and right here, we gotta be able to plan how we're gonna be straight a month from now, a week from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, right? And that's how we gotta plan things out, because these people that run this joint, they definitely do. I tell people all the time, these people, they make plans for their great grandchildren, right? They concoct it today, and all that stuff don't really come into fruition until centuries later, because it's all about maintaining power. Because we've been so out of power. We just want a quick dose of power, whenever, instead of understanding that real power is built over time. That's what they do. Look at it. Every system that is that's operating now in this world has been placed over time. It's not an industry that just popped up overnight, and that they haven't put together over time, right? So it says, he that gather in the summer is wise, is a wise son, but he that sleep in the harvest is a son that cause shame. Right? So you want to work when it's possible. Do the necessary when you're able to do the necessary. Right? Don't wait too long. Don't be a procrastinator. Right? Then it says, the godly are shown with blessings. The godly are shown with blessings. The words of the wicked are concealed violent intentions. So you can see, somebody that's of good nature, because how the way they carry themselves, right? How they interact with people. How people talk about them, right? And you can also tell a wicked person, an evil person, on how they conduct themselves and how people speak about them as well. It says, blessings are upon the head of the just, but violence covered the mouth of the wicked. That's why some people are always into stuff. They always got drama. They always got some type of turmoil in their life, because perhaps maybe they got some type of wickedness that they're dealing with, and they can't quite shake. And people don't never take that under that look and be like, maybe it's something I'm doing that's causing me to always have beef and being in scuffles and arguments and getting into it with everybody. Maybe something I'm doing. Yeah, okay, those people, they did some things, alright, I get it. But maybe I'm doing something too. Right? We don't think like that. Then it says, let me read it over here. Then it says, We have happy memories of the godly, but the name of the wicked person rots away. Because people tend to remember the good, right, of people. That's why the Bible says it's good to have, above all things, have a good name, right? You want to make sure you have a good name amongst your peers and people, right? People have good things to say about you, right? It says the memory of the just is blessed, but the name of the wicked shall rot. Because people speak bad about, even if you dead, they still speak bad. If you was a wicked person when you was alive, they still gonna speak bad about you, right? Then read it over here. It says a wise the wise are glad to be instructed, but babbling fools fall flat on their faces. So we were speaking about this earlier. Wise people love to get in, instructed, because they want to know how to do things better, make things easier. They want to know different questions and stuff. Answers to different questions. But it says, but the babbling fool falls flat on their faces. So because some people just talk too much where they can't even receive knowledge because they don't stop talking to hear anything, right? And they don't have the capacity to receive new knowledge because they're so, I want to tell everybody what I know. I got to express everything I got to say. It don't matter what nobody else say because I'm smart, so listen to me, right? And it shouldn't be like that. It says the wise in heart will receive commandments, but the pattern fool shall fall. It says he that walk upright walks surely, but he that perverted his ways shall be known. So again, so you can see how a person act, how they conduct themselves, how they treat people, what type of person they are, and you can tell a wicked person, someone that got a bad spirit, because how they are, right? And how they because it says people with integrity walk safety. Because if you a good person, you're not into beef with people, you ain't got no trouble, you ain't gotta be scared when you go and gotta make sure you have a weapon when you go over here, or can't go over that neighborhood, don't want to go over in that block. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't live like that, right? It says people with integrity walk safety, but those who follow crooked paths will be exposed, right? So that's what goes on, and that's a lot of times people end up in a lot of trouble because they create a lot of trouble, right? And it says, people who wink at the wrong causes trouble, but the bold reproof promotes peace. Right? So let's talk about here's a read it over at verse 10. It says he that wink with the eye causes sorrow. Because people can see wrong happening. Like, alright, let's take this nation president, for example. Number 47, right? The 47th guy, right? Let's take him, right? January 6th stuff happened a few years ago, right? And, he said, there are good people on both sides, good and bad on both sides, good and bad. There's more so on the left, right? So he winked at all that stuff. He laughed it off, act like it wasn't nothing, right? So, and so much so that he pardoned those people, right? And a lot of those people, unbeknownst to a lot of us, end up committing, crimes again and getting locked up later on after they got, pardoned for that, right? So a lot of them, end up getting locked up again, right? Because it says What it says, he that wink with an eye causes sorrow. Because, people that turn a blind eye to wickedness or act like it's cool or pay no attention or promote it, you know, then you give people, especially if you're a person of power, you give people that's under you the impression like, okay, yeah, we can do this. This is what we're doing. So that's why a lot of those ICE members who are potentially January 6th rioters, that's why a lot of them got the masks on because they don't want to be recognized. Because it was, storming the Capitol just a few years ago, right? So that's what happens when wickedness is in leadership. It says, "He that wink with the eye causes sorrow," right? Because read it over. It says, "People who wink at wrong causes trouble, but the bold reproof and promotes peace." So instead of correcting the wrong, they promote it. They act like nothing happened. Like that stuff in Minnesota last month. The Department of Justice, call those people terrorists, right? And you know how I feel about dumb people to the point where I'm calling them dumb people. But right is right and wrong is wrong, though, at the same time. We know what happened, right? So, and they call them terrorists because, what did it say? It says, people who wink at wrong cause trouble. And that's what they're doing. They're causing trouble because they're emboldening more people to act that way, right? That's why this place is going to, eventually go into total civil unrest, right? This is just the little microcosms of stuff to come, right? When we look at these things. It says, people who wink at the wrong cause trouble, but the bold reproof promotes peace, right? And it says, back over here, and it says, he that walk upright walk surely. Okay, I read that. It says, says the mouth of the righteous man is well of life, but violence covered the mouth of the wicked, right? Because a person that's have a good spirit about themselves, they're gonna speak good things to people. They're not gonna be all negative. They're gonna have good positive words to say. But a negative person is always gonna be talking down and talking, negative and bringing all types of negativity around, right? It says the mouth of the righteous is well of life, but violence covered the mouth of the wicked. And it says, hatred is stir up strife, but love covers all sin. Right, so just hold on real quick. Okay, hold on. So yeah, alright, let's read this one more time. Let's read verse 11. It says, the mouth of the righteous is well of life, but violence covered the mouth of the wicked. Right? So let's get Isaiah 50:4 real quick. It says, the Lord has given me the tongue of the learned. And that's what you want. You want the Most High to give you the tongue of the learned, meaning give you the right words to say at the right time, so you can speak like a man of wisdom, for you won't sound like a foolish person. It says, the Lord has given me the tongue of the learned, that I should know how to speak a word in season. And that's the thing, you got to be able to speak a word in season, because you can have all the knowledge and the wisdom in the world, but if you don't know how to say it and place it right where it needs to be placed at, you're just gonna sound like a madman sometimes. People are not gonna listen to you. You're just gonna sound like a little, like you talking over people's heads, maybe, right? It says, "The Lord has given me the tongue of the learned, that I shall know how to speak a word in season to him is weary, that is weary, and uh, and walketh morning by morning. He walk he walketh my ears as to learn. I mean, he waketh my ears as to learn." Right? It says, and that's what you want. You want to be able to, you know, to speak, certain, because like sometimes it'd be like, have you been talking to somebody, you talk to somebody, and you're trying to get advice or something or whatever the case may be, and they tell you some stuff, and you looking like that doesn't help me at all. Like what you just said has nothing to do with what we're talking about. That's probably good for something else, but what we got going on right here, that's not what we doing. That's why it says, "The Lord had given me a tongue of the learned, that I should know how to speak a word in season to him that is weary." Because sometimes people might be going through stuff, and you know, you might say some stuff and you put them in a deeper depression, right? Because you done said the wrong words. You might be trying to relate and bring up a story of your past, then your story kind of make them remind them of some other hurt, then they back crying again or whatever, right? So you gotta know how to speak the words in season, meaning, say the right thing. Just don't be babbling, just saying whatever, right? Just, back over here. Where we at? Let's get So it says, hatred stir up strife, but love cover all sins. Right? Let's get 1 John real quick. 1 John 5:2. And it says this: "By this we know that we love the children of God." Because again, to tell us over here, what it say? It says, hatred stir up strife, but love covers all sins. Right? And so what is love? This is how we know what love is. It says this: "For we know that we love the children of God when we love God and keep his commandments." Right? "For this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments." Right? And his commandments are not grievous. So when it says, hatred stir up strife, but love covers all sins. Because the love of God is keeping his commandments. So when you keep the commandments, of course the commandments tells you what sin is, and if you're obeying them, then like it says over here, it says, but what it says, but love cover all sins. Right? And again, that's, and love is this, and the love is, for this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not grievous. Right? So that's what we need to covet to want to do, to keep the commandments of God, so we can obtain the love of God, so we can love each other properly, like how God wants us to love each other, which is keeping the commandments. Right? And if we keep the commandments, then we will, by default, treat each other better, and love each other. Right? Let's go to Proverbs 15:7 real quick. And it say, the lips of the wise are disperse. The lips of the wise disperse knowledge, and that's what you want to be. You want to be a person that have lips of the wise, so you can disperse knowledge. Right. Right here, go right here. So you want to be a person that speak wise things, so you can disperse the knowledge. So you want to, don't be a man, that's foolish and, say foolish things. You want to be able to disperse that knowledge when you speak. And that knowledge comes from understanding, of these scriptures. And it says, boom, boom, boom. The lips of him that, the lips of him that have understanding wisdom is found, but the rod for the back of him that is void of understanding. But the rod is for the back of him that is void of understanding. So, again, you don't want to, be that guy that's just, void of understanding, because, like it says, the lips of him that's that's understanding wisdom is found, but the rod for the back of him that avoids understanding. And that rod is correction. That is the Most High punishing stick. You remember when your parents used to tell you, go get that switch, go find you a switch, right? That is that switch that the Most High uses to put us right. Let's prove that real quick. Let's get Psalms real quick. Let's get Job real fast. Let's go to Job. Matter of fact, let's go to Job 9:34. And it says, let him take his rod away from me, and let not his fear terrify me. Then would I speak, not fear him, but it is not so with me. Right? So now we all know the story of Job, right? We know what Job was going through, right? Job was, going through it, had some agony and some heartaches and loss of family and wealth and all that stuff. And, he was getting, having a horrible life, right? He had a very horrible life that nobody would want to have. All your children, being, unalive, property being taken, then you get some type of crazy sickness. It's all bad, right? So Job says this, let him take his rod from me, meaning, what he was using to, inflict Job, that rod, right? Let him take his rod away from me, and let not his fear terrify me, right? Because that's what the rod of the Most High God do when he start to whip us with it. When we start to go through things in our life, experience certain things, whether they be permanent or temporary. We have to understand how the Most High God punished, and it's not a joke. Right? Let's get what else I want? Let's get let's get Job 21 real quick. Job 21 and 9. And it says that their houses are for sale, their houses are safe from fear, neither is the rod of God upon them. So again, we just read that in the other chapter that Job is praying that God will take his rod from him, and we know what Job was going through. So then we see right here, it says their houses are safe from fear, neither is the rod of God upon them. Meaning, people, when you have your household is being blessed, and you having a prosperous household, and everybody's doing good and healthy and well, right? That's a good thing. The Most High God don't have his his judgment on that house. But then you have some people that their house is not a home. It's not a safe place to be. It's very traumatic and turmoil going there, right? And so it says, their house are safe from fear, neither is the rod of God upon them. So there's people that God protects, and he makes sure that they keep they keep his protection, and he protects the household, right? That's why we got to stay prayed up and pray for our family, and pray for the Most High God protection, right? Let's get I think I want Psalms again. See, which one is it? Hold up. I think that one. Yeah, Psalms 25:3. It says this: "For the rod of the wicked shall not rest upon the lot of the righteous." So, when God punished the the wicked, He's not gonna, punish the righteous also, because that rod of correction is only for the wicked, of the people. And so it says, for the rod of the wicked shall not rest upon the righteous, lest the righteous put forth their hand unto iniquity. So as long as the righteous is being righteous, God is not going to use that rod to correct the people, and but for those that is doing wickedness, He brings turmoil and hell and other stuff into your life, right? And because that's how He deals with us. That's how He did it. That's how He whip us back into shape. And sometimes, again, it can be temporary or it can be permanent. Because sometimes people, might end up in a wheelchair for their transgressions, and now they got to spend the rest of their life in a wheelchair. They might have some type of deformity. They might get shot, and now they got to walk around with half of their face missing for the rest of their life, right? So it happens. Let's get Psalms 2 and 9 real quick. Go to Psalms 2 and 9 and Revelation 2 and 6. So Psalms 2 and 9 says this: "Thou shalt break them with the rod of iron. Thou shalt dash them into pieces like a potter's vessel." So, and that's what that rod does. And metaphorically speaking, the commandments of God, the laws that He gives us, is what gives us that correction stick. Because we see that we're not measuring up to what we should do, then that would give us, the instruction on how to live, right? That's why He gave us the laws, right? So it says, "Thou shalt break them. Thou shalt break them with the rod of iron, and thou shalt dash them in pieces like a potter's vessel." So that rod of iron is used for correction and to rule over, right? And to straighten out, right? And so when God is using the rod on us, and we see all types of storms and stuff in our life, all types of hell and stuff going on, that is Him correcting. And and because we deserved it through our transgressions. I mean, not maybe, we did, right? Let's go to this real quick before I go there. Let's go back. What was it? So let's read them. Start at 8. So it says, Psalms 2 and 8. Ask of me, and I shall give thee the heathen. So this is God telling the Israelites, ask of me, and I will give you the heathen, the other nations, right? To rule over, because that's one of the promises. In case y'all don't know, that's one of the promises from God to give the Israelites power to rule over these different nations. Ask of me, and I shall give thee the heathen for thy inheritance, and the othermost parts of heaven for thy possession. Right? And thou shalt break them with the rod of iron. So that rod of iron is that correction that we're going to be ruling these nations with, and instructing them on the righteousness of the Most High God, and putting them back into their place, their God-given place, if they get out alive. Right? Revelation 2 and 26. It says, and he that overcometh and keep my works unto the end, to him will I give power over the nations. So again, that rod, is the law and instructions. And it says, and he shall rule over them with a rod of iron. So that rod of iron is that power and glory, the laws, statutes, and commandments that the Most High God has given us to rule over these nations. He shall rule over them with the rod of iron, meaning strictness, right? With sternness, right? Of sternness is going to be happening here. As a vessel of a potter's, should it be broken to shivers, even as I receive of my fathers. So like I said, so that rod is to crush, to break, or it can be to instruct, right? As we can see how in different ways that the rod of God is being used, right? So back to Proverbs real quick. So Proverbs. Alright, so it says, a wise man lay up knowledge, but the mouth of the foolish is near destruction. Because people just want to run their mouth and just say stupid things, but a wise person is gonna always have something wise to say. And keep knowledge and listen to people of knowledge and wisdom to build up their own knowledge and wisdom. It says, a rich man's wealth is his strong city, the destruction of the poor is their poverty. Right? Because a rich man, if a rich man fall into trouble, they have their riches and they have their little rich friends that can help out, right? A poor person, when they fall into trouble, they have nothing, right? Their money is not going to save them, right? If you were Jeffrey Epstein, meaning if you did the things that he did, or you did the things that Puffy did, P. Diddy, you would be in jail the very first day. It wouldn't be no and ifs or buts about it. It won't be no congressional hearing. It won't be no type of extra investigation. It would be no wasting of taxpayer dollars. Your black ass would be in jail, right? So that's how it goes. So what it says, it says the rich is strong. The rich man's wealth is his strong city. The destruction of the poor is their property. It's their property, right? Let's get this in Ecclesiastes real quick, right? Because again, rich people have, like, we gotta understand, because especially in this day and age, because these people that gotta understand, rich people don't care about poor people, right? We be looking at rich people like they're gonna fix our problems, and they care about us so much, right? That's why a lot of those little white trash people voted for Trump, because he's rich. He's gonna fix our problems. Of course he is, because he got all that money. But the Bible tells you about rich people, right? It tells us this: all flesh consorted according to kind. So meaning all people are going to deal with who they familiar with, everybody talk about racism and prejudice, but we're naturally, inherently adapted to be around ourselves, people that look like us, right? Kangaroos hang out with kangaroos, giraffes hang out with giraffes, elephants hang out with elephants, right? Lions hang out with lions, right? That's just how it all set up. All flesh is sorted accordingly to kind, and a man will cleave to his like. So when you notice you go into a room full of random people, right? If you ever notice, people will group themselves to what they're familiar with, right? If you go into just a random room with random people, because it says, and a man will cleave to his kind. What fellowship have a wolf with a lamb, right? You would never see a wolf and a lamb that's hanging out together like la da dee la da da, everything's cool, right? You'll never see that, right? That lamb will be on that wolf's dinner plate if they be around each other too long, right? It says, what fellowship, it says, what agreement, it says, what fellowship has the wolf with a lamb? So do the sinner with the godly. So someone that's in wickedness, a sinner that's against, contrary to God, they have no fellowship with a person that's, trying to be godly and keeping the commandments and walking in a path of righteousness, right? They don't want to be around that person, right? There's no fellowship with that. It says, what agreement is there between a hyena and a dog? Right? There's no agreement. What peace between the rich and the poor? That's the point right there. What is the peace between the rich and the poor? Right? Because we gotta understand that a wise man lay up knowledge. What it says, a rich man's wealth is a strong city. The destruction of the poor is their poverty. Right? So the point is, it's a difference between rich and poor, right? When we don't have the same problems, right? There's a big difference when we go through stuff. So a lot of times we be trying to think these people have our best interests at hand, but we just read that the rich hate the poor, essentially. That's what we just basically read. The rich ain't got no need for the poor, and the poor hate the rich, right? And we know that. Because you remember a couple of years ago when that submarine went down into the ocean and that stuff happened, and everybody kind of was like, cool, nobody, no uproar. They kind of almost low-key celebrated a little bit because some billionaires didn't quite make it, right? So it says the labor attentive to life. It says the labor of righteous tendeth to life, and the fruit of wicked to sin. He is in the way of life, keep instructions, but he that refuse reproof errs. So again, you have people that's just don't want to do right. You can't tell them nothing. They don't want to listen to anything, right? There's nothing you can tell them that is going to be something that they should want to listen to, right? Because they're too ignorant and too foolish to accept new knowledge other than what they have to say for themselves. It says, let's read it over here. It says, too much talk, hold on. It says, the earnings of the godly enhance their lives, but evil people squander their money on sin, right? That's what happened a lot of times too. Then it says, people who accept discipline are on a path to life, but those who ignore correction will go astray. And that's what happened. People ignore correction because they don't want to know anything. Let's go to Psalm 74 real quick. 74 and 2. And it says, remember thy congregation which thou hast purchased of old, the rod of thy inheritance which has redeemed this which redeemed this Mount Zion, wherein thou hast dwelt, right? So, and that's the thing we want to. Hold on, says yeah, boom, 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 and because you want to keep, the life and stuff. Hold on, read this one more time. It says, so remember thy congregation which thou hast purchased of old, the rod of thy inheritance which thou hast redeemed, this Mount Zion wherein thou hast dwelt. So, like how it says over here, he is in the way of he is in the way of life. Keep instructions. So, and that's what with that rod. That is that rod of correction. That rod is the instructions, the commandments that we keep, and that's how the Most High redeem us. Back into the our city of Zion, right? And it says the rod of thy inheritance which thou hast redeemed this Mount Zion wherein thou hast dwelt, right? And so yeah, it's all about correcting ourselves and not being too proud and puffed up in our own knowledge to where we can't accept new information to better ourselves, right? It says he that hideth hatred with lying lips, and he that uttereth slander is a fool, right? And that's what people that, let's read it over here. It says hiding hatred make you a liar, slandering others make you a fool. So a lot of times, again, going back to what we read in Matthew earlier about if you have a problem with somebody, talk to them about it. Don't be keeping it to yourself, because then that's going to fester. You're going to end up building up these hateful emotions for this person because you didn't get a chance to express yourself and talk to them about it, right? So that's why it says when we just read it in Matthew, talk about when you have a problem with your brother, bring it to him, and talk it out, right? Let's get Leviticus real quick. Okay, we gotta understand how we should deal with each other. Let's get Leviticus 19 and 17. And it says, thou shalt not hate thy brother in thy heart. And that's what we should not do, hate each other in our heart, right? And it says, thou shalt anywise rebuke thy neighbor. So, you don't be hateful towards one another, but we can correct one another when we see each other doing stuff that's contrary to what God tells us to do. It says, thou shalt anywise rebuke thy neighbor and suffer not sin upon him. Meaning, you see your, fellow Israelite doing something wrong, you let that person know, like, hey, this is how we should be doing it according to God, blah, blah, blah. And, you don't fester hate for them, or somebody do something to you, or you get upset with somebody. You don't fester in that hate and emotion that you got for them, right? Because we are commanded to love each other, because it says, thou shalt not hate thy brother in thy heart, thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor and suffer not sin upon him. Thou shalt not avenge nor bear any grudges against thy people. So we cannot be holding grudges and stuff and having all this fester hatred, right? Looking at people evil eye when they walk away, secretly hating people. They don't even know that you dislike them. You being around them, they don't even know that you hate them, right? Don't be that person. It says, thou shalt not hate thy brother in thy heart, thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor and suffer not sin upon him, thou shalt not avenge nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself, right? That's how we deal with one another, right? So moving on, then it says, in a multitude of words they're they're one of not sin. But he that refrain his lips is wise, right? So over here it says 19. It says, "Too much talk leads to sin. Be sensible and keep your mouth shut." Right? So, and that's the thing, 'cause a lot of people just over talk and just be talking themselves into a ditch. We all seen the first 48, right? People just end up talking too much. Just saying more than they have to say, right? And you don't want to be a person that just don't have no control over your mouth. You just say things, and and it's all about pride, because people like to show people what they know, right? Whether it's good information or bad information. They just want to show people that they're important and they know things. But it says, "Too much talk leads to sin. Be sensible and keep your mouth shut." Right? Then it says, let's get what was it, Ecclesiastes? Let's get Ecclesiastes real quick. 5:1. Right? Ecclesiastes 5:1. We gotta understand how to deal and talk, because you don't want to be coming off foolish and all that cool stuff, right? So you want to know how to deal. Let's go with right here. Boom. And it says this. I'm gonna read it. It says, is it Ecclesiastes? No, I think it could be Ecclesiastes. Hold on. It's over here. In this one. Boom. Here we go, right here. It says, "Be not rash with thy mouth." So again, you don't want to be rash with your mouth. You don't want to just be speaking and just saying things, right? It says, "Be not rash with thy mouth. Let not thy heart be hasty to utter anything before God. For God is in heaven and thou upon earth. Therefore let thy words be few." Because a lot of times people just want to talk too much and just say things, and then they end up lying, right? Because they're not thinking before they speak, they're just talking. Because it says, "Too much talk leads to sin. Be sensible, keep your mouth shut." That's why it says, "Be not rash with thy mouth, and let thy heart be, and let not thy heart be hasty to utter anything before God. For God in heaven and thou upon earth, therefore let thy words be few." Right? So don't be a blabbermouth and be talking too much, right? Because then you're going to end up, saying too much, probably lying by accident, maybe on purpose, depending on who you is, right? So back up here. So it says, the tongue of the just is as choice as silver. The heart of the wicked is little worth. The lips of the righteous feed many, but fools die for wanting of wisdom. Right? So, you want to, speak good words to people, and, have good things to say, and people recognize you for the good things you say. Right? It says, "The words of the godly are like sterling silver. The heart of a fool is worthless. The words of the godly encourage many." So, because people, you want to be that person that can speak a good word to somebody to lift up their spirit, to get them, to feel better about their situation. It says, but fools are destroyed by their lack of common sense. Right? Because you see, just somebody dumb, just you know, just you know, just dumb. That's all I can say. Just dumb. Right? Then it says, then it says, blessing of the Lord makes a person rich, and he adds no sorrow with it. Doing wrong is fun to a fool, right? And that's the thing. People, God blesses, the righteous, and they will add to it and they will increase it, right? And they're not gonna do anything foolish. It says, doing wrong is fun. It's fun to a fool, right? It remind me of that Boondocks episode where Riley, is making fun of that boy. It's like I want to do hood rat things with my hood rat friends, right? Cause they fun. It says doing wrong is fun for fools. Cause like you have those people, grown men too, still playing a knockout game. You know what I'm saying? Walking down the street, punching strangers in the face. That's crazy, right? And everybody laughing at it like it's funny, right? It's retarded. And it says doing wrong is fun for a fool, but living wisely bring pleasure to the sensible. So just having a nice, sensible, peaceful life, no drama, you're able to go to work, come home, take care of your family or whatever. Just having a nice, drama-free life. What the Bible say for it says, but living wisely brings pleasure to the sensible. The fear of the wicked, the fears of the wicked will be fulfilled. The hopes of the godly will be gained. When the storms of life come, the wicked are whirled away, but the godly have a lasting foundation. Because our people sometimes our people will go through some stuff and they end up just giving up on everything, acting like it's all bad. Instead of just having a solid foundation and understanding how the Most High God works. But a lot of times we give up on certain things and get discouraged and do a lot of wicked stuff, right? It says back over here. It says when the storms of life come, the wicked are whirled away, but the godly have a everlasting foundation. So when the storms of life come, you want to be on solid foundation. You want to have, a good understanding of the Most High. So when stuff happens in your life, you won't be like, oh God, this is so horrible. Why, God, why? And because you understand how He works, right? And it says, lazy people irritate their employers, like vinegar to the teeth, or smoke in the eyes. So because meaning if you hire somebody to do something, or you're trusting somebody to take care of certain tasks, and the whole time if they're not reliable, you're gonna be worried yourself sick. Like, man, I hope this person do what I asked them to do. I hope they take that mail and drop it off at the post office like I told them to do it, and drop this off, take the kids to the daycare, do all this stuff, right? Because some people are just not responsible and reliable enough, right? And so it says, as vinegar to the teeth and as smoke to the eyes, so is a sluggard to them that sent them. So, like I said, a person that you can't trust to get the job done, you send them to do a task, and the whole time they're out, doing whatever you ask them to do, the whole time you worrying if they're doing it right. You got to check on them and watch them the whole time, make sure they're doing it step by step. It can be worrisome to you. It can be stressed out. It can be make you stressed out having to do that, right? Then it says, the fear of the Lord lengthens one's life, but the years of the wicked are cut short. The hopes of the godly result in happiness, but the expectations of the wicked come to nothing. Right? And that's what's going on, because a lot of times, because, we kind of look at certain things and we don't look at stuff how God look at it, right? We look at certain people as being prosperous, they live in life, but it tells you that the wicked, there's no good end for the wicked, right? Let's get Psalms 149 real quick. Get Psalms 149 and 4, and it says, "For the Lord take a pleasure in His people; He will beautify the meek with salvation." Right, and that's what He's gonna do. He's gonna beautify the meek with salvation. Right, with and just get this real quick. 47 and 6 says, "The Lord lifted up the meek and cast the wicked down to the ground." Right? And that's what happens, because it says, "The way of the Lord is strength to the upright, but destruction shall be to the workers of iniquity." Right? And because that's what happens to, to the wicked of our people, right? Because like we just read over here, "For the Lord take pleasure in His people; He will beautify the meek with salvation." Right, and that He will take care of the ones that, is is keeping the commandments. But it says over here, it says, what was it? Boom, boom, boom. It says, "The Lord lift up the meek and cast the wicked down to the ground." So He lifted up the meek, but then He cast the wicked down to the ground. He's going to destroy the wicked, right? Let's get do I want let's see, Isaiah real quick. So do I want this real quick? Hold up. Ooh. Isaiah 24, I think, right? Isaiah 24. Hold on real quick. Salakia real quick. Salakia. Salakia. Back. Where we at? Boom. Alright. I think I'm flipped over here. Hold up. Back over here. Buddha. I think I was pulling looking at Isaiah, I think. Isaiah 24. Isaiah 24, what was that word? Boom. Is it 22 or what? Hold up. Make sure exactly. Verse 20. That's what it was. 20. Says the earth shall rule, boom, 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 and good fun. Says the earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard, and shall be removed like a cottage, and transgression thereof shall be heavy upon it, and it shall fall and not rise again. So, like I said, so the God, most High God will is going to punish the wicked, and of course preserve the righteous of the bunch. And let's get to while we at it. I think I wanted Matthew 5:5. Boom. And it says, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." Right, and because that's what's coming, the meek, right, and not the pompous, not the proud, the self-righteous, the meek shall inherit the earth, right? Because like it says up here, like we've been reading, the righteous shall never be removed, but the wicked shall not inhabit the earth, right? It says the righteous, this Proverbs 10:30. The righteous shall never be removed, but the wicked shall not inhabit the earth. But we just read the meek shall inherit the earth, right? Zephaniah 2:3 real quick. Therefore, thus saith the Lord, behold, against this family I do devise a evil, which ye shall not remove from your necks, neither shall ye go haughty. Hold on, oops, this is Micah in the wrong book. Zephaniah, I don't know. Boom. Right here. Zephaniah 2:3. Seek ye the Lord, all ye meek of the earth, which have wrought his judgment. Seek righteous, seek meekness. It may be ye should be hid in the day of the Lord's anger. Right. So again, because it tells you that the meek shall inherit the earth, right, and He's going to destroy the wicked. So it says, "Seek ye the Lord, all ye meek of the earth, which have wrought his judgment, seek righteousness, seek meekness. It may be ye shall be hid in the day of the Lord's anger." So, if you're doing all these things, keeping the law, statutes, and commandments, being that meek person, the Most High God will preserve you in that day that is coming very soon. When World War III kicks off, right? And it says, boom, boom, boom. Oh, Isaiah 11:4. And it says, but with righteousness shall he judge the poor, and reprove with equality for the meek. For the earth shall he smite with the earth with the rod of his mouth. And check this out, right? Let's read this part again. But the righteous shall he judge, but with righteousness shall he judge the poor, and reprove with equality the meek. Because our people, when have we had equality in this place, right? We always going around marching for equality, no justice, no peace. But in that day, the meek is going to inherit the earth. The meek is going to have their justice in that day, right? Then it says, And he shall smite the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips, and he shall slay the wicked. Right? And that's what's coming, right? And he's going to slay the wicked. And how are we going to slay the wicked? Let's get this in 2nd Ezra 13 real quick. 2nd Ezra 13. How are we going to do it? 2nd Ezra 13. Let's start at 9. And it says, and lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up hand nor held sword nor any instrument of war, but only I saw that he sent out of his mouth, as it had been a blast of fire, out of his tongue he cast out the sparks of tempest. So, that's how he's going to do it, right? Right then and there, because we just read up here what it said. The mouth of the justice bring forth wisdom. Hold on. It says the lips of the righteousness. Hold on. Oh, dang, I'm over here. Read it. So hold on, read it one more time. It says, oh yeah. Dang, I got no foot from it. That's what happened. Isaiah 11:4. It says, but in righteousness shall he judge the poor, and reprove with equality the meek of the earth, and shall smite the earth with the rod of his mouth and the breath of his lips, and he shall slay the wicked. Right? So it says he's going to smite the earth with the rod of his mouth. Right? And we just read over here, and lo, as I saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand nor held sword nor any instruments of war. Right? So it's the same event that we're reading about. And it says, but only I saw that he sent out his mouth, that had a blast of fire out of his lips, lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempest. And they were all mixed together, a blast of fire, a flaming breath, and a great tempest, and fell upon the violence upon the multitude which were prepared to fight, and burnt them up every one, so that upon the sudden of the innumerable multitude nothing was perceived, but only dust and the smell of smoke. And when I saw this, I was afraid. Right? That's what's going down when the Mashiach touched down and judged these people for all the things that they have done. He's going to destroy these people. Right? Let's see that on that. Right. Let's get this before we get up out of here. Let's get 15 and 38 real quick. Proverbs 15 and 38. Is it 38 or 28? I don't know. Where was it? Is it? I don't know. I think I done. Not that one. Boom, boom, boom. It's not. I don't know where I got that from. Hold on. Let's get. Let's get 29. Let's get James 19 real quick. So James 1 and 19 real fast. James 19, 1 and 19. And it say this right here. James 1:19 says, Wherefore, wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear and slow to speak and slow to wrath. Right? And that's what you want to do. You want to be swift to hear and slow to speak. Right? Because it says, the mouth of the just bring forth wisdom, but the forward tongue should be cut out, right? So and that's the thing, right? Because so it's a Proverbs 15:28. It says the heart of the righteous study to answer, but the mouth of the wicked poureth out evil things. So again, because you want to, again, think before you speak. Have, a good, intelligent answer. You don't want to just blurt out things like a foolish person, right? So that's why it says, the Lord is far. Hold on, it says, the heart of the righteous studieth to answer, meaning you just not talking just to talk. What you saying, you got facts. You got research behind it. You're not just running your mouth. Then it says, the heart of the righteous study to answer, but the mouth of the wicked poureth out evil things, right? And you don't want to be that person that pour out evil things. Let's get this real quick, see what this talking about. There's a lot of people that just pour out evil things because they can't control their mouth. They don't know what to say. Then then they end up saying some stuff, and then now they done said a whole bunch of stuff that they can't come back from. And we gotta keep this in mind. This is John 9:31. Now we know that God hear not sinners. So a lot of times these people that be speaking these wicked things and doing these wicked acts, right? And then they go home and they pray, or they go to Sunday service and they sit up there and they act like they're holy. But they gotta understand this. For we know that God hear not sinners, but if any man be a worshipper of God and do his will, him he heareth. Right? So it says, the mouth of the just bring forth wisdom, but the forward tongue shall be cut out. Right? It says, the lips of the righteous knows what is acceptable, but the mouth of the wicked speak forwardness. Right? So don't be someone that's just always constantly running their mouth, don't know what they're talking about, constantly proving wrong, but then you got too much pride to know that you're wrong or to admit that you're wrong. Right? Proverbs 29 and 20. Seek thou a man that is hasty in his words. Seest thou a man that is hasty in his words? There is more hope for a fool than of him. Because again, someone that's always quick to speak, they always talking, they cutting you off. They might ask you a question, then as you're answering the question, they're not even patient or disciplined enough to hear the answer. Right? Don't deal with those type of people. Then it says, where am I? Boom, boom, boom. It says, there's more hope of a fool than for him. Because at least you can kind of teach a fool, somebody that's stupid, But somebody that's just always talking, running their mouth, what can you teach them? They don't, there's no room to teach because they always talking, right? So Proverbs 13:3. He that keep his mouth keep his life, but he that open his mouth wide shall have destruction. Because sometimes just running your mouth too much can cut your life short, can cause a lot of trouble. You can bring yourself a lot of heartache and pain by running your mouth too much. But then you can save your life by not running your mouth so much, right? And so we gotta understand, a lot of times people, they get prideful because they may know something and they want to show the whole world they know something because they got a little information. It's a lot of YouTube channels of people just exposing stuff that goes on in their hood, or with fellow gang members or whatever, right? Because they have the information, they can put it out there, right? But that stuff ain't cool, right? Gotta learn how to move in silence, right? And not be such a chatty patty, a blabbermouth. The Bible says only a fool tell you everything that's on their mind, right? So hopefully that was edifying. We understand how to deal with these foolish people, right, in this world, right? Understanding, wisdom and knowledge and how to apply it, and all that stuff, right? So hopefully that was edifying. Until next time, shalom, peace, we out.